Okay. Um, Perfect. Again, no participant video or audio will be recorded. So, um, you probably shouldn't have to worry about it, but if you don't want to be on a recording video, you can leave and this will be posted a little later. Um, okay, perfect. So again, for those of you who've been here before, I'm just going to read the exact same disclaimer script, um, which will happen at the beginning of every meeting. So, I'm communicating today in my official capacity on behalf of the FedRAMP Program Management Office at the General Services Administration. To ensure effective engagement and transparency with industry, I will be sharing information based on what I know at the present time. The information I plan to share today is provided to enhance transparency between industry and the FedRAMP PMO, but it is possible that some of this information may change at a later date because no final decisions have been made at this time. However, I think it is important to have this dialogue so we can move forward in a transparent manner, but I wanted you to have that context before I got into the substance of the presentation. My commitment to you is to continue this dialogue and share any new developments as soon as I can. Additionally, any reference in this conversation to any specific commercial product, process, or service, or the use of any trade, firm, or corporation name is for the information and convenience of the public and does not constitute endorsement, recommendation, or favoring by GSA. Perfect. Again, a little housekeeping. We have a bunch of people registered for this meeting, so we've turned off the ability to unmute yourself so we don't have to chase down interruptions. Discussions and collaboration can still take place in the GitHub discussions board created for this working group. The link is on the screen right now. And we also invite you to post any questions or ideas you have there. We have a dedicated questions thread pinned to the top for this meeting. So you can post your questions there and we will be engaging there, answering your questions. And so here's today's agenda. We are going to go over some of the activity that's been happening on GitHub these past 2 weeks. We'll do a recap of the deliverables for the pilot because that's sort of one of our active things going on right now. And then we are going to go over draft pilot submissions and sort of how we envision that happening, final pilot submissions, and we're going to talk about this week's discussion starters, and then we'll get into some next steps. And just a reminder, the video recording of this call will be posted in a business day or two on our YouTube channel. Perfect. So another slide that we've done before. But how will work, the intent is for us to meet bi-weekly for 30 minutes to an hour. And these meetings are meant to be touch points to provide updates on progress, both within this group and the greater FedRAMP 20X community. The majority of the engagement and work in this group will be done in our GitHub repository discussion forum. One of our guiding principles is for all work to take place in public with maximum transparency. So we want to make sure that all community members will have access to our work. And myself and Dan will work to facilitate discussions, answer questions, and work through any problems identified within the forum. So again, GitHub will be the primary hub for discussion and collaboration. Okay, on to the GitHub recap. So activity on the GitHub discussion board has slowed down a little bit in the last 2 weeks, and we assume that's probably because everyone is very busy working on their phase 1 pilot submissions. So that's understandable. But just as a reminder, the GitHub discussion board is the best place to get answers to your questions about the pilot. And the FedRAMP team will be focusing on forum questions this week so we can get you information as quickly as possible. And again, this week, we want to give a quick shout out to our top contributors for this 2 week period. It's great to see new people on this list every week. And for anyone who wants to add to the conversation, especially around the 20X pilot, we have a relatively high urgency discussion post related to ideas and concerns around public submissions. So, particularly for those who are participating in the pilot or who are working with people who are participating in the pilot, we really want your input on that discussion post. Also, this next 2-week period, FedRAMP will be breaking down the secure configuration key security indicator and discussing automated assessment methods, and of course, answering questions and giving feedback on pilot-related things. So if you're new here, you want to participate, go to our discussion board. The link is on the screen and on our website, and I can also post it in the chat. Dan, will you post it in the chat? Thank you, I appreciate it. Okay. Okay. So just to recap some of the stuff that's been going on in GitHub, we have a thread talking about automating the continuous monitoring of continuous monitoring and high availability. Using containers and Kubernetes, we love to see this type of highly technical talk, especially in this working group, as it's like extremely relevant to the work that we're doing. We also have some discussions happening around using MCP servers provided by cloud hosts like AWS, Azure, etc., to get the most up-to-date information. And a cloud-hosted MCP server could tell you the specific command to run to verify multi-factor authentication is configured, for example. And if that command ever changes, you'll get the updated change. So that's a cool way to be monitoring multi-factor authentication and changes in configuration. We also had a participant break down some of the components of a control, and we see some discussion around ideas for automating the validation of the implementation of zero trust design principles, which is probably one of the trickiest things to automate. So these are all really cool discussions happening, lots more where that comes from. And on the note of automating assessment, let's talk about the phase 1 pilot again. So for those of you who may have missed it, I'm going to repeat the deliverables before I pass it over to Dan to talk to you about draft submissions and the submission process. So FedRAMP 20X is not based around the controls and baselines that you might be used to. Key security indicators show the capabilities that we're looking for, and we're not worried in this phase about doing things the same way with a different skin on it. We're not talking about automating the existing Rev 5 approach or using AI to create the same old narrative-driven documents. We want participants to focus entirely on the key security indicators with these deliverables. And so with that, I have the deliverables up here on this slide. The package for the 20X Phase 1 pilot will include a summary of the cloud service provider and the cloud service offering. That's sort of like metadata for the marketplace. A rationale for the approach used to generate the submission, which is one of the only narrative portions of the package. A summary from a 3PAO explaining their assessment approach, another like minimal narrative portion. And then the rest is all meant to be more machine readable. So a machine readable assessment file in a format of your choosing, which includes a status of each key security indicator, supporting evidence, and integrated verification by a 3PAO, and also a data definition or schema to help us orient to your format. And then we also added in should only use printable ASCII and graphical Unicode characters. As FedRAMP, we are not trying to download anything sketchy into our system, so we will be looking out for all of that. And also a proposal or prototype for continuous reporting. This is the package, and this is the most flexible phase. So phase 1 submissions will serve as examples to the community and inform future standards for future phases. I know there's a lot of questions around how are we going to submit this package? And that is where I'm going to pass the discussion over to Dan.
All right, thanks, Kylie. So let's talk about first the pilot draft submissions. So to clarify the nomenclature here, right? So the draft submissions are submissions of your machine readable machine readable file that you're putting out prior to your final submission. So the pilot draft submissions are not going to impact your final approval or not. They don't have to be finalized or even completed, and they can contain placeholder or anonymized data. So if there's information that you're not quite sure you're ready to release publicly, you can put in lorem ipsum text. Doesn't matter. We don't care. We're really mostly interested in the format and the process as to how it's being delivered. The a window for accepting draft pilot submissions is going to be between May 19th and May 25th. We've got some updates on the FedRAMP pilot page about this with these dates and things on them. So you should make sure to read that. Draft submissions have no bearing on the scoring of your final submission, as we said, and you can be free to submit whatever you have, regardless of its level of completion. Submit as many things as you want, change it, whatever you like. As discussed many times, one of our goals for the pilot program in general is information sharing amongst the participants. Therefore, the draft submissions, which again, I'll state, don't need to contain, all of your data or really any of your real data, should be publicly accessible. Right? This can be a static endpoint, such as like yourdomain.com/FedRAMP20X. Could be hosted on a third-party service like GitHub or a CDN, et cetera. Anything you want, any way that people can access it over the web is just fine. The idea is that we want to be able to get to it. We also really want for the community to be able to look at each other's work and share best practices and good ideas and grow off of each other. So for the draft submission, that's what we're really looking for. In the interest of fairness, we will not be able to provide individualized feedback for private submissions if you do choose to submit a submission privately, but we will review each draft submission and compile generalized feedback, which we will be sharing with greater community. So to expand on that a little bit, if you post your submission publicly someplace, then we can respond to it with specific feedback. If, however, you send the submission to us in some other way that is private, then we can only provide generalized feedback to the community. We can't provide specific one-on-one feedback to any individual. Everything that we produce is shared with the community. All right. Let's go ahead to talking about the final pilot submissions now. Okay, in terms of the final submission, so again, this will be after the draft submissions have been worked through. Again, we've updated the pilot page with additional information on this, so you should refer there for the most recent up-to-date information. But right now, the plan is for the windows for submission for final submissions will open after May 30th and will remain open based on demand. There's no explicit closing date or deadline for the final submission, but I will remind you that this pilot will eventually transition into a regular ongoing path for authorization. And once that transition is made, once that guidance is published, then all future submissions will have to comply with that specific format and whatever other specifications are attached to it. In terms of how to submit to FedRAMP, we have a strong preference, as I just said, that the packages be made available publicly. That means the package is self-hosted or hosted on a publicly available site. It doesn't require an account, login, or password of any kind. And because of timing, we're asking that these submissions don't require any sort of legal agreement, like a terms of service or an NDA. On the government side, a lot of times we have to have those reviewed by legal. And since we're trying to move very, very quickly here, that is going to introduce delays into the process that we want to avoid. Okay. The idea about public submissions, once again, is both to streamline the pilot review process, right? The less complicated the process of getting the submissions is on our side, the quicker we can work through them, as well as working out whatever issues do come up with public submission. In an ideal world, we want the final product to involve agencies being able to review a CSP's compliance information at any time without needing to request access or jump through any hoops. Again, all this information has been posted on the website, so you should definitely check it out there. Okay. Next slide. Now that I've just said like all that stuff about how we want everything to be posted publicly, let me backpedal slightly. Um, we internally have been having a lot of discussions about this. I don't know, for those of you who don't know, like I was formerly the security officer for a CSP, and I will be honest, I would have had real concerns about posting my security package publicly. We want to work with you to figure that out. So we've opened a new discussion thread on the GitHub discussion board specifically to talk about this product, about this challenge, right? We want to get your feedback. What are the challenges or risks for public submission, and what ideas or solutions do you have to mitigate those things potentially? This is all this in part to say that we are still exploring other methods of submission, right? At the end of the day, we don't want to exclude anyone if you feel that, the risk of exposing your compliance information is too great. So we're still looking for alternatives. We do have some constraints that we've identified already. Emails with large attachments is not going to be a workable solution. No login details. Again, we don't want to be managing a bunch of accounts. We don't want agencies to have to manage a bunch of accounts. Also, no compiled binaries or installations, right? As Kylie said earlier, we're not looking to download any malicious Trojans or viruses into our system, and we know none of you would do that, except I'm sure someone out there that has already thought of it. And again, no required NDA or terms of service. So we're interested in your ideas. What are the challenges in submission? What are alternatives that you think might work, or ideas that mitigate those challenges? And how can we bring those together? So I'm really looking forward to that discussion in the community discussion group. That is definitely the place for these conversations. We're looking for an open discussion there as opposed to a bunch of people emailing us with their concerns. So use the discussion groups, and let's see what we can work out. Okay, next slide. Okay, speaking of discussion groups, just a few reminders here. The new category of discussion in our working groups, 20x Phase 1 pilot, is specifically for discussions about the 20x Phase 1 pilot. As Kylie said earlier, our focus this week is going to be really driven to answering your questions about the pilot and getting you feedback so that you can move forward with your development. So we'll be looking for those questions that are flagged as 20x Phase 1 pilot and giving those our utmost attention. The automated assessment working group, which is the best working group, obviously, is the place to ask questions around auto-generated evidence and machine-readable data formats. The apply existing frameworks work group, this is where we want to talk about auto-generated evidence that doesn't quite fit, like SOC 2 audits, map to the KSI validations. Post here to talk about how to apply your existing certs to the FedRAMP 20x KSIs. And we've already seen a lot of discussion about this, both in the automated assessment working group and over in the applying existing frameworks working group. The continuously reporting working group is where we talk about prototypes and proposals for reporting continuously and which KSIs are most conducive to that. A good reminder here that your submission package not only includes your point in time data, but also an explanation of how you'll continuously monitor and report on that data. These working groups are your best resource when it comes to getting feedback, getting your questions answered by both the PMO and the community. And now I'm going to pass it off to Kylie to
Awesome.
finish our housekeeping.
Thank you so much, Dan. Um, I am just going to talk about this week's discussion starters, but I feel like we've already harped on this first one a lot. But please, 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 we really are looking for your input here because at the end of the day, you are submitting to us, and we don't want to be putting up any barriers or making your life unnecessarily hard. So we want to work with you. Please talk to us about the best ways, some ideas, some things that you have thought of around submitting your pilot packages to us. We also posted just a thread about the KSI-SC, or the Secure Configuration Key Security Indicator, that reads, A secure cloud service offering will enforce the use of approved cryptography, continuously verify component integrity, and restrict access to external services. So that's kind of the mega thread for a discussion around automating assessment for the validations in that KSI category. So we're looking for which validations are conducive to automation, which ones might not be, what auto-generated evidence could be applied to each validation, and also how might 3PAOs assess these validations. So both of these posts are already up in GitHub, um, and we want you to engage there. And some next steps. Our next recap will be held on the 28th of May at 1 p.m. That will be very close to when we open up the final submissions for the phase one pilot. So again, if you have questions or need clarification, please, please, please post in our GitHub discussions forum, and we will get you those answers. Also, if you're interested in bringing forward a topic, prototype, or idea, you can post that in the discussion forums, but obviously no product pitches. And I will get you all out of here. Thank you so much for coming and your time and your engagement. And see you on the discussion boards in GitHub. Thanks, everyone.